agenda for you, which we are looking forward to showcasing. Welcome to anybody who's new to the network. Becky and I had a quick catch up this morning, and we were saying that this time last year we probably had about 40 people, 40 people on the network, and we've now got around 75. So we're steadily climbing in our numbers, which is excellent. Today we're going to record the session because there are others that can't make it today. And for every presentation, we're going to pause afterwards and take some questions at the end of each presentation. If there is any questions that you want to ask, just pop into the chat and we'll pick them all up at the end. Excuse me. So we've had to have, there's one speaker that we did have who's had to pull out for today, but that hopefully means you get half an hour back. And she will be joining us hopefully in the spring session. So welcome everybody, and let's get to the first presentation. This is Cost of Living and Financial Wellbeing, and the speaker is Dawn Cummins from a Regional Partnership Manager from the East Midlands Money and Pension Service. So welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm just trying to load the presentation. While that's happening, I hope you can all hear me all right. Becky, could you put thumbs up that you can hear me okay? I'm actually, thank you, in motorway services, not my desired outcome to do this, I have to say, but queues on the M6 at junction 2, it's taken me an hour, so I've opted for the drop into a motorway services to do the presentation. And so thank you for your patience. I'm sorry for background noise, and I'm going to do my best in some challenging circumstances. Becky, can I just check? I think we agreed about 20 minutes for this presentation, didn't we? Is that right?
That's right, yes. Thanks,
lovely.
Dawn.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to whiz through this presentation. I'm going to do it in about 20 minutes. And the idea is that I want to introduce you to who the Money and Pension Service is, what we do, where we come from, why we're here, and why I'm talking to you. So I'm going to quickly move on to the next slide, which tells you who we are. So we're an arm's length organisation linked to DWP, and we have a consumer facing brand which is called Money Helper. That's our consumer service, but the Money and Pension Service is a bit like an umbrella organisation. So that's where we get our funding through the government, and actually why we're here and why I'm speaking to you. And the reason why this is really important is because all of the information I'm going to share with you is completely free of charge. Nothing I show you costs anything to anybody. And the fact that we are backed by the government means that we are absolutely fair, we're impartial, we're not trying to sell anything. The government mandate for us is to make sure that people have access to good money wellbeing guidance. Now, as I say, I was stuck on the M6 at Coventry for about an hour, and it did give me the joy of listening to Radio 4. I always like Radio 4 anyway. But on the news, obviously, at the minute is a big report that's come out. Debt charities are really worried about people that have got a lot of debt. And so it might be that there's information in here which you can take away and you can then share with colleagues who maybe are quite worried about debt that they might have or have money worries. What I can do as well, this is just designed to sort of tell you about us and give you a real sort of broad overview about what we do. I can then do more specific work with each of your NHS trusts or each trust after the presentation. So Becky can share my details. You can then give me a call, or we can sort of have a, quick 5-minute meeting, webinar, whatever. And it might be that there's extra work that I can do individually for each of you, which would go into more detail and which you might then want to share with your colleagues. We also do some work around being able to offer training, and it's free training to wellbeing staff around how to start having conversations about money, because I think very often people are really, they don't want to talk about it. It's embarrassing, and you really don't want to talk to your colleagues or your bosses about it. So it's kind of a way of trying to find different pathways in which people can access the help that they need. So I will now continue to tell you a bit more about us. So we've got 5 core functions. The first is around money guidance. That's why I'm talking to you. And it's around trying to build up knowledge and understanding of financial matters and to improve people's day-to-day money management skills. We're big on pensions guidance. Clue is in the name, Money and Pension Service. We do a lot of work around pensions. Our staff team, over half of our staff team is dedicated to pensions. And we also specialise in pensions, so we can help with NHS pensions, but we do a whole array of pensions as well. Really big part of our work and very important. Debt advice, as I said this morning, I was listening on the radio, massive problem with people struggling with debt. We don't provide debt advice. We are not an advice organisation. We are not regulated by the FCA, but we do fund it. We're the biggest funder of debt advice in England. So if you go to your CAB or you go to a national debt charity, you will find that generally they will be funded by us to provide debt advice. Really important piece of work. Consumer protection, really it's around us working with the FCA to protect consumers against financial scams. We work with a lot of different partners in that space. So that's a little bit more behind the scenes. And then strategically, and what we have to do is we have a financial wellbeing strategy for the UK, as we cover Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales as well. And our strategy just looks at how we can work better with the industry leaders and stakeholders to build a financial wellbeing movement in the UK. And then just some stats really. 22% of people have less than £100 in savings to fall back on. 17%, and this is higher now, often borrow to buy food or pay for bills, and 52% do not have a plan for their finances in retirement. So that's 48% of people don't even think about it. 48% of people do, 52% don't. Now, this is a video, I'm not going to share it with you now, but I just wanted to sort of highlight to you, we've got this little video which says an estimated 13 million worker days are lost due to financial worries. So, you know, it's an awful lot. If your colleagues or your staff are worried about money, it could be that they end up having to have time off work because of mental health issues. So, you know, and that little video is actually quite useful and is available on the website. Oh, sorry, it's playing it. Didn't mean to do that. So I'm going to talk to you about Money Helper. So as I said, that's our consumer facing brand, and it's mainly web based, but there are leaflets and there's other ways in which people can access help as well. But Money Helper is here to provide clear, free, impartial guidance, money and pensions guidance that's on your side and backed by the government. So that's what I'm just going to talk to you about in a little bit more detail. So what I've done here is, so our website, if you went onto the Money Helper website, it's vast, it's a big website, a lot of information on it. And I actually think it can be a little bit overwhelming as well, because you would get onto our landing page and think, right, okay, where do I start? So what I've done here is just highlighted 3 elements that are on the website, which are really good starting points and which people won't know about. So the first one, and the one thing we would always say to everybody, is you need to do a budget. And we have on our website something called a budget planner. And what it does, it's an interactive tool where you can type in all of your income, all of your expenditure, and it will then provide you with a budget. And the budget planner will then highlight for you areas that maybe you need to look at. So if, for example, I was to do my budget and I did it for over a year, 12 months, but monthly expenditure, maybe some weekly, it would say to me that in any particular month, I am either going to overspend or underspend. And if I'm overspending, how much I'm overspending by, and then some hints and tips about how you can possibly sort of manage that. The other thing with the budget planner is, which I found really helpful actually when I did it, because I used to do Excel spreadsheet, put everything down and work it all out. No, the budget planner does prompt you to think about things that you might not think about in your expenditure. So it'll say things to you like, well, are you planning to go on holiday? Because that, you know, that's an expenditure you've got to allow for. Do you have pets? That was a really interesting one for me, because I, in my head, thought, because I've got a lot of pets, got dogs, cats, chickens, pigs. I've got a few things going on. I sort of thought, oh, my pets, I bet they cost me about £50 a month. And then when I went through the budget planner, I thought, really, it cost me more than £50 a month just to feed the lot of them, let alone any unexpected vets costs. If I go on holiday, are they going to go into, you know, some sort of accommodation where they're going to be looked after, boarding? So it really does make you think about all areas of expenditure, and also the one-off expenditure as well. So really good budget planner. It's quite detailed, this one. It takes about 40 minutes to fill out, but it's well worth it. But there are other budget planners. So I know Citizens Advice do one, and there are other organisations that do them as well. So your starting point is the budget planner. That's what I would ask you to talk to people about. The next part that I wanted to just cover is where to get free debt advice. Very relevant after what I've spoken about just now. So with debt advice, it's really important that people have lots of different ways to access it. So for me, I'm a Google warrior. I Google everything. Dr. Google is really my friend. Wrong audience to say that, so I know, but Dr. Google, love it. So for me, I want to get all of my help on Google or online. And I want to do that in my own space, and I want to be sort of anonymously trying to do that. Other people might think I want to speak to somebody on the phone, and that's fair enough, and we can provide phone numbers for that. And then other people might think, actually, I'd rather go into an office and speak to somebody face to face. So it's around providing lots of different options about how people can access debt advice when they need it. And we have something on our website called a debt advice locator tool. And what people can do is they can type in the area where they live, and then they press a button and it comes up with a list of all the debt advice agencies which are close to them, comes up with it on a map as well, with contact details, so telephone number, address, website address. So that is a great way for people to maybe start thinking about accessing debt advice when they're ready. The trick with debt advice is you need to get it early. It needs to be accessed as early as possible to get on top of it as quickly as possible. The third part of this slide just looks at the bill prioritiser tool, which is quite a new tool actually, and was developed after the pandemic. And little did I know, because I've been in post since 2019, and really excited, keen bean, brilliant job, love it, working in the region, going to meet lots of people. And then in March we went into a lockdown, and I spent the first 18 months to 2 years basically on my computer doing a lot of work online. We came out of that, and then of course we've gone straight into the cost of living crisis, and the bill prioritiser tool is a great little tool for people to type in any of the bills that they're worried about. So you go into it, you have a look, you type in all your bills, and then the bill prioritiser will bring up a list of those bills in priority order, because people need to understand what is a priority debt and what isn't. And this tool will help people understand that. So whilst a lot of people might say that their Sky television is the most important things in their lives, actually what's really important is keeping on top of your rental mortgage, paying your utility bills, and paying your council tax as well. They're going to be your top priority, and it talks about how you can get help with that. So just examples of 3 great tools on the website, and if you wanted me to do more work with any of your organisations, I would be able to do more work in detail around those. As I said, a lot of our work is web-based. I think that's a little bit of a problem for the area that we work in, because you know, it's fine for people who live in London or the cities where they can access the internet really easily. You know, we have areas where rurally it can be really hard to access the internet. We also, I think it's a barrier for some older people who are not that confident about it, and so it's really important that we do provide alternatives, and we do have printed guides, and these are free. They are free for everybody and they are posted directly to people's doors. So what I would say is if you go into our printed guides part of the website, you can go on, you can order as many of the guides as you need to, and then you can either get them in as an individual and, you know, show them to your family and friends, or it might be within your organisation, you want 20 copies of something, and you can do that as well. They have a lot of different headings. There's about 15 different headings. Some around just general money guidance, a lot around pensions, some around mortgages. It's really interesting, actually. There's a lot of titles in there. So have a look at that if you get a chance and, you know, get some guides in for your staff. Another way people might want to contact us is through a telephone number. So we have my money guidance telephone number. We also have WhatsApp. And we also do live money guidance on web chat too. So lots of different ways that you can access this information. I've only got a couple of slides left now. So just quickly to cover with you pensions and retirement. So if you went onto the Money Helper website and this is your landing page and you go across, you can see in the pink there pensions and retirement. These are all the areas that are covered within pensions and retirement, and then you go into each of those and then there's more details that go further down the line. And you can see to the to my right as I'm looking at this slide, book a pension wise appointment. So you may have seen pension wise advertised. We do pension wise, so it tells you how you can do that. There's a pensions calculator. There is also a workplace pension contribution calculator. I think this part of the website is really, really good because it takes you right through from the basics of auto enrolment, why you should have a pension, through to, you know, if you're thinking of taking your pension, what you need to consider. You know, some people know that at 55 you can access some of your pension. Is that something you should do? You know, and it really sort of helps you to sort of look at it and understand it. And you can always speak to a pensions guider as well who would be able to help. So really good resource that is really people just don't seem to know about, I don't think. And then when it comes to pensions guidance, if you've done the website and you think, actually, I want to talk to somebody, or you just want to talk to somebody, there's a helpline telephone number, and there is also web chat again as well. They can create miracles. It's witchcraft. It's amazing what they can do. I've known them find lost pensions for people. There was one man who contacted our team. Well, it was actually a woman on behalf of him. He was sleeping rough. A friend contacted us, and it turned out they found out that he was ex-armed forces. And he'd left the armed forces about 20 years previously, but he had 20 years of pensions that he hadn't claimed. And so they managed to backdate it, get his pension up, and it got him enough money to get him off the streets. So, you know, it's amazing what they can do. I listened to the call. It was really moving, actually. So, yeah, there's some great stuff we can do around pensions. Some of the things we can do with you is we can do webinars. So I could get my pensions team to come in and do a webinar with your staff if you think that would be helpful. So, you know, sort of, you know, have a look at it and just have a think about it. And then that's it for me. I wanted to, it's a bit of a rattle through. As I say, not in the ideal environment for me, but it seems okay. It's fairly quiet. I'm in Costa, so I've got a hot chocolate. I'm fine. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. I really hope that you know you'll find the information useful and that you can come back to me and ask me to do extra work with you, which I'm really happy to do. And I'll hand back to Becky to see if there's any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Dawn. Ellie, I'll hand over to you. I'm just popping your email in the chat, Dawn,
Lovely.
so that
Thank
people
you.
got it.
Thank you. That was really interesting. We do have one hand up, so I'm going to go to Julie then, please.
Hi, Julie. I think you're on
You're on
mute.
mute.
Julie,
I do it
that's right.
all the time.
So do I. So do I. It's
done
just
it for
it never gets
years.
old, does it? It just never gets old.
No.
Never gets old. Yes, Julie.
Yeah, really interesting to hear all that. I have been trying to sort out. So I'm in accounts receivable. So obviously we're in about recovering debt, and that also impacts staff members, you know, ex-employees, etc. And part of our process is to have in recognising, to show a bit of empathy towards they can be in this predicament where all of a sudden they're owing thousands of pounds, etc. So could we use this? I know, my mind is like jumping around what we can do with what you've presented today, which is really good. I've really enjoyed listening to it. Could I use that to adapt that to part of our recovery process? Because we sort of recommend they go to Step Change for support. If we're thinking about ex-employees, could we sort of get them to get in touch with you to see if there's, like you say, any pensions overdue, this sort of thing? Is it worth doing it that way as well?
So I think, Julie, you've raised, I've made a note here, some great questions. I'd actually, if it's all right with you, could we put that time in and have a separate conversation? Because I think there's some quite specific stuff I could help you with, which I hadn't anticipated I would cover in this presentation, to be honest, because I didn't really, I didn't expect any of you to be in the space of debt recovery. So I'd like to learn a bit more about that, because we do a lot of work around that and how that can be handled and how you can help people. Because obviously debt recovery isn't just about banging people on the head with a hammer and saying, you will pay me and I want my money. It is around understanding what's going on around them and finding them the help and support they need. And Money Helper is part of that. But we also have a network where you could refer people into one of 7 debt charities quite immediately using a network that we use. But I won't sort of do it on here because it would take too much time anyway.
Absolutely.
Julie, please, I've made a note of your name. Please contact me if you could straight after this. We'll put some time in the diary and then I can explain it all a bit more to you.
Yeah, that'd be great, because we have built into our credit control process, we have sort of built it in where they can go for additional help, like Step Change, etc., and these other platforms. But it's been really hard building that partnership up with them though. So this might be another avenue that we can look at.
That we could be that bridge through to them. We fund all of those organisations. I'm not saying we would replace it, but we could certainly help. There is a way you can access them which is slightly easier, and you can do it through us, and it costs you nothing. It's fine.
Fantastic.
So Julie, if we could have a chat afterwards, that'd be great. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Excellent question. Dawn, just for your Becky's put the video that you had in your presentation into the chat, so I'm sure people will look at that. Is there any more questions for Dawn before we move on?
I mean, I would say while people are just having a little thing, I know that I'm obviously talking to a lot of people in finance. I recognise that, and actually what you're dealing with is completely different to what I've just spoken to you about. But this is around, actually, I suspect employees would think to go to your staff if they wanted help or they wanted some guidance, or so actually, although it would seem a bit of an odd way to do it, I think if you've got a finance team, you automatically think, oh, they're going to know what I need to do. So I thought it was helpful from that point of view. And then also for you, if you could speak to any colleagues who generally I speak to HR people, to be fair. HR seems to be the one that picks this up more than anything. If you wanted to send my details to your HR colleagues to see if I can help with, if you've got wellbeing teams, whether I can, do some work with those, that's where I think it really fits. But I'm really pleased to speak to you all as well. It's great. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Dawn. We've got lots of thank yous in the chat as well, and it was helpful. But thank you very much. Okay. And I'm sure many of us will be in contact.
Thank you, Dawn.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. I'm going to go now, drink my hot chocolate, and then off I go on the M6 again. So thank you for listening. Thanks very much.
Dawn.
See
Bye.
you.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
So we're moving from finance now to nutritional wellbeing. So this is Jo Kelly. She's a registered nutritional therapist and health coach. And yes, I'm really looking forward to listening about the nutritional wellbeing. So Becky, is Jo on?
Yes, I saw her join. Yeah, I definitely saw her join.
Hi, yeah, just sat patiently in the background. Hi, yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, I've got a presentation for you. So am I right just to share my screen?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah.
Hopefully it works. Can you see that there?
Yep, I think it's just going into presentation mode.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
Lovely. Turn my camera off. Lovely, great. So I wonder if I can move this. Brilliant. So thank you for having me on today. It's really exciting to work with you guys and do a presentation for you. So completely different to what I just caught the tail end of your last one. So completely different. But also important in looking after yourself with food. I think it all links in. Looking after your financial well-being and your nutritional well-being, it all links together. So hopefully a good follow on. So today we're going to look at how we fuel your mental resilience through nutritional strategies. So just so you know who you're listening to today. So my name is Jo Kelly. My company's Flourish with Nutrition. I'm a registered nutritionist and I specialise in workplaces. I've got a background in corporate sales and M&A, so I've been one of those busy people that spend their whole time out on the road. And I retrained in nutrition 3 years ago, or qualified 3 years ago. And now I just want to help people not burn out in the workplace and stay in their jobs and be productive and not have to walk away from a busy workplace, but build that resilience so you can stay there and enjoy your work. Through my nutrition work, I've worked with companies such as Net Company, Sky, the Pets at Home Group, Kia, so all different companies of varying sizes, different challenges, different things that they need. I've had articles published online and in magazines, and my favourite part of my job, I'm a judge for food awards as well, so I get to sit and eat food all day long. Probably what will become apparent through this presentation is that I love food, so I'm all about adding more food into people's diets and rather than taking things away. So hopefully you'll see through this that it's all about helping you find ways that you can add more into your diet, so it's not about deprivation. Also, though, I like to keep presentations really open. So if you've got any questions along the way, please just shout. It's always great to get some interaction. So don't worry about holding on to the end. There is time at the end as well for questions if you've got any. But if there's anything you want to flag during the presentation, please don't worry about speaking. So what we're going to look at today is how nutrition can support your mental resilience, specifically in the workplace, post-holiday slump. So we're coming to the end of January now, but I don't know about you, I'm still finding bits of chocolate and things from Christmas that have been left over. Not most people are, you just sort of do that New Year, New Start thing for the first week, and then that falls off. So there is that sort of post-holiday Christmas period slump that we're all in January. So we'll look at that for a little bit. I'll talk to you about some key nutrients that will help you along the way, and then I'll give you some practical strategies, so things you can actually take away today and change. So winter can be a really tough time for affecting our mental well-being. Things like dips in energy and mood can be down to having a reduced daylight. We're not going outside. We're not wanting to go outside as much, or the days are shorter. So maybe we're going to work in the dark and coming home in the dark, which can be really hard. You're not seeing the daylight very much through the day, especially if you're working in an office environment. You're maybe not going out. This can impact our serotonin and melatonin levels, so it can have an impact on our happiness, our sleep, everything that comes with that. Being cold and miserable, I don't know about where you guys are today, but it's very wet and very cold where I am in Bristol. It doesn't lead to us wanting to go outside and exercise. So again, we're not having that sunlight, we're not getting outside. And being active, and maybe sat inside more often, watching more on telly in the evenings, just not moving as much. And there's also that increase in illnesses that are going around, which can affect our well-being and our productivity. There seems to be a horrible flu bug that seems to catch everybody at the moment. So all of these things can really affect how we're feeling and lead to us not making maybe the best decisions with our food, because maybe we just want comfort, we just want things to be warming. We just want to find any kind of joy in the day that we can, and we might not be able to find that through other ways that we do it in the later period of the year. And then specifically for you guys working in the finance sector, it's a really busy time this time of year, maybe coming to the end of year ends, budgeting. If you're working with other people, they might be panicking about post-Christmas bills that are now coming in. So you may find that you're having extended screen time than you would at other points in the year, more demands on your brain power, you're having to work longer hours. This can all affect your sleep and stress levels. So this is all having an impact through the winter. So it's almost all coming at the same time, and the worst time in terms of the weather as well. So then we've got that post-Christmas slump. So you might go into January, like I say, with all the good intentions, but actually by sort of 2 weeks in, a lot of people have gone, I can't do it. It's too hard. I've fallen off my New Year's resolutions. I just want to sit and eat chocolate and popcorn. So this can affect our motivation and productivity. We might have slipped. We might be eating more sugar than we would normally, just for comfort again. You may have started out doing things like dry January, and that may have fallen off the wagon. You might have just decided it's too hard, it's too wet, it's too cold, it's too miserable, don't want to do it. And that's perfectly reasonable. You might be eating more processed foods. This can lead to blood sugar imbalances. It can lead to energy crashes and brain fog, which is going to then have an effect on your day-to-day work. You might have disrupted sleep patterns because of these types of foods that you're eating, and this might contribute to that sluggish feeling as well. So again, having a knock on to how you're working through the day. So what we want to do after all of that negativity, I want to bring it back to a bit of positivity. Let's look at how we can break the cycle with balancing our nutrition. We'll look at how to stabilize blood sugar levels using protein, healthy fats and fiber, and then introducing structured meal plans so we can rebuild our energy and keep our focus on what we should be doing. So firstly, looking at blood sugar regulation. So we need blood glucose. It's the primary source of energy for our cells, and that helps with our brain as well. So it's not that we don't need these things, we do. It's just making sure we get it in the right way. So maintaining a stable blood sugar level throughout the day is crucial for our overall health. Fluctuations can have a real impact on our mood and our energy levels and our ability to concentrate and function. I don't know if anyone ever gets that 3 o'clock slump where you just feel like you're sort of falling off the edge of a cliff and you need something to pick you up. That'll be down to your blood sugar levels dropping. So this is a graph to sort of indicate that, really. So you start the morning and your blood sugar levels are low when you get up. So you have your breakfast and that will raise your blood sugar levels. Depending on what you have for breakfast will depend on how high that line goes above the normal level. Sort of 10, half 10, mid-morning, you might find that you have that slump again and you need something else to keep you going. So maybe you have a coffee and a biscuit or a bit of cake or something sugary just to keep you going till lunchtime. You'll get that rise again, and then that will fall back down again by lunchtime. Maybe then at lunchtime you'll reach for a sandwich or a can of Coke or something to pick you back up again. And then you'll go through this same cycle. So come 3 o'clock, you'll have that dip again after lunch. So you're reaching for that sugary snack, something just to get you through to the end of the day because you're just really flagging to get you through to your dinner time. And this cycle will go on and on, depending on what meals you add in, depends on how big this slump will be. So is anyone willing or happy to tell me what they had for breakfast this morning? Absolutely no judgment. Just it's useful to sort of hear what people are having so we can talk through how that might be affecting you.
Go on then, Jo, shall I go first?
Yeah, if you're happy
Oh,
to.
people are putting their hands up, right? I'll go first and
lovely.
then people have put their hands up. Right, okay, so porridge, which sounds good, except I've got into a little bit of a bad habit over Christmas of getting 2 squares of dark chocolate, so like kind of very like 80% chocolate, and putting it in the porridge and it melts. And it makes it like a chocolatey porridge. So that's what I have for breakfast.
Okay, so it was just the porridge, oats and the chocolate
and
some milk. Okay, so not a bad start. So dark chocolate is good, and actually you'll see later in the slides I talk about dark chocolate, so that's good. So not bad to have the 2 squares of dark chocolate, not bad to have the oats. What I would suggest that you add in there is some protein. in certain forms. So with it just being the oats, they will convert to carbohydrate, to sugar in your blood, so that you will get that high and that low with just oats. So do you sort of find mid-morning you're struggling a little bit to?
Usually,
yeah. Yeah, so what you want to add in, so it's certainly not a bad starting point, but if you add in maybe something like some peanut butter, a spoonful of peanut butter, or nut butter, something in protein, or a handful of mixed seeds, flax seeds, something like that, that will add some protein in, and that will stabilize this curve, so you'll get a much more of a flatter line, and you'll probably find you can get to lunchtime without needing a snack.
Great.
Or a coffee.
I was about to say, I've just had 2 coffees and a biscuit, so yeah.
There you go. So yeah,
Jo.
I think that's what will be happening. Is it's a really great start, and oats are brilliant, and there's lots of health benefits, but you just need to add that protein in to pair it to stop that high, basically, so you get much more of a stable balance there. So yeah, not a bad start, and you don't need to take the dark chocolate out, so carry on with that.
Okay, great, that's good to know.
They all good news.
Ellie, you happy for me to go to people? Yep.
Yep, sure.
Okay, so Kate, you had your hand up next.
Yeah, I had 2 slices of toast with butter on and a cup of tea.
Okay, yeah, brilliant. So again, toast will do the same thing as porridge. So bread will do that same, you'll get that high and that low. So it's not bad to have the toast, but I would say add some, again, you want to add that protein. So whether it is something like nut butter onto that toast, or an egg, something like that. So you want to just be always thinking of having protein with the carbohydrate. So it's definitely not a bad starting point. It's just making sure you get that extra bit, so you're not having that dip at mid-morning.
Ellie, do you want to share yours, and then I'll see if I can do a bit of a summary, because there's quite a few in the chat, so see if I could group some of them together.
Oh wow, this is great. Normally nobody answers, so you lot good.
So I usually have a mix of blueberries, raspberries and strawberries, with a little pot of yogurt, with a topping of a little bit of granola, but I mix nuts and seeds into it.
Perfect.
So that's
Right,
what
yeah.
I have.
Yeah, lovely, really good breakfast. With your yogurt, is it what type of yogurt do you have?
Greek yogurt.
Perfect. Yeah, so really good. So Greek yogurt is brilliant. That's a really good protein source. You want to avoid the flavored yogurts or the Greek style yogurts. They're okay, but you won't get as much protein. The flavored yogurts have a lot of sugar in. So you want to get, plain Greek yogurt. Perfect. So you get a really good protein source there. Fruit, brilliant. You get lots of fiber from the fruit, so that's really good. And if you're having a mixture of berries, then you get different nutrients from each berry, so that's a really, really good way to do it. And then the granola is great, especially if you're adding in extra nuts and seeds. My only caveat with shop bought granola is it can be quite high in sugar. I've actually got a really good granola recipe, really super quick granola recipe that I can send over to you guys if you want, for a homemade granola. So it has a little bit of maple syrup in it, so there is a little bit of sweetness in there, but it's nowhere near what you get in a shop bought one, and that's basically packed with nuts and seeds.
Brilliant, that sounds great. Yes, please send that through.
That's fine. I'll send it over after we finish, and then you can distribute it to the team.
Excellent, thank you.
But yeah, brilliant breakfast. So that would be perfect. So hopefully you find you sustain till lunchtime with that kind of breakfast.
Usually.
Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, it's that protein bit is a bit that's going to keep you full. So that's the sort of key message, really. So whatever your basis is, I think where it's harder is if you're having things like bowls of cereal, things like a bowl of Cocoa Pops, for instance. It's really hard to add the protein in to negate the sugar in those. So maybe if you're having those kind of things, it's maybe thinking about other types of things. So maybe like a homemade granola, if you really wanted a cereal type breakfast, then that would be a better option.
Jo, there's loads in the chat. I don't know, can you
wow.
see the chat as well?
Maybe. Oh.
If not, I can try and pull a couple out, but I don't think you'll be able to.
Oh no, I've lost
do
me,
all of them.
No, I don't think I can.
No, that's fine.
Lost my screen.
All right, you get your screen back.
Right. Yeah, sorry, I'm back.
So we've got some which I think sound quite similar to sort of what Ellie was saying, like yogurt and granola, porridge, strawberries and blueberries, Greek yogurt, strawberries and granola. So in terms of ones that are a bit different, someone said avocado on toast.
Lovely, really good. Yeah, perfect. So you get really good healthy fats from avocado. which is really great. You might want to add some protein in this. If you can maybe add an egg if you eat eggs, or a handful of seeds on the top, mixed seeds or nuts, just to up the protein in that, but not a bad breakfast at all.
And then I don't know, we have a thoughts on this. There's a couple of people who said, I don't eat breakfast, or I haven't eaten yet today.
Okay, that's fine. If it works for you, that's fine. There's no reason to have breakfast. Some people don't do well with breakfast first thing in the morning. As long as you feel well and switched on and alert. I'm a breakfast person, but I'm also a foodie, so I just eat all day, every day if I could. But then all I talk about is food, so that kind of goes hand in hand with my job. But my husband doesn't eat breakfast, for instance. He won't eat till sort of mid-morning or lunchtime. So everyone's really different. So as long as it works for you, that's the thing with any of this. It's all individual to you. But then when you do eat, when you do decide that you're hungry and you need something, it's the same principles really. Protein first is what you need to think about, whichever time of day you start that.
Cool. I'm only going to do one more for you, Jo, just because I think you might give Tom a gold star here. So he has a protein smoothie, 2 scoops of whey protein, banana, oats, and peanut butter with milk.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, doing well. Yeah, so good, very good. So again, protein-rich breakfast, which is great. Just probably a caveat to the protein powders is just making sure you get a really good quality protein powder. Some of them can have a lot of emulsifiers and preservatives and that kind of thing. So just to be mindful of, but absolutely not a problem if you need that to have that extra protein. They can be really useful to really boost your protein levels. Hopefully that was helpful just to give you an idea. So that's sort of, I think if you can start your day or your first meal with a really good, strong, protein-rich food, you'll set yourself up for the day. You really will get yourself on the right foot. I think if you start your day off having something that doesn't work for you, it then does have a knock-on for the whole day, because you get in this up and down cycle and it's really hard to get out of it through the day. So actually start your day right and the rest more likely will follow. So you'll find you have a better day. So thank you everyone for that. I really appreciate your interaction, because often people don't answer because they're too scared. So you guys are doing great. So just to sort of wrap up the blood sugar bit. So blood sugar levels that are too high or too low can have an impact on our mood. Irritability can cause fatigue and give us difficulty concentrating. So that's where you maybe reach for something to eat. So if you've got high blood sugar levels because you've eaten something rich in sugar or refined carbohydrates, this can lead to a spike in that energy and then followed by those crashes. So you get that roller coaster effect, and that can leave you feeling really tired and lethargic. You won't be working at your peak. On the flip side, if you've got low blood sugar levels, then this can lead you to feeling irritable, anxious, and difficulty focusing. So those people that don't have breakfast, if that works for you, that's great. But if you find you're just sort of a bit shaky, a bit like you can't concentrate, things aren't quite right, then maybe it's worth thinking about adding some breakfast in, or even mid-morning, whenever it is that you need to have something. You might be having a blood sugar low, but some people can go longer than others without food. So it's all very variable from person to person. So as we've really focused on, so foods to help you balance that blood sugar level. So protein, as I've said, is going to be your best friend here to add into all of your meals. So whatever it is you choose to have, whether it be a savoury breakfast or something like a porridge or something with granola, adding in that protein as your sort of thought process all the time is what can I add into to increase the protein. So there's the sort of meats, poultry, fish, eggs, tofu or tempeh, legumes, nuts and seeds. I should have put Greek yogurt in there as well. It's a perfect one. Fibre as well. So we didn't really touch on fibre too much, but you get fibre from anything that comes from the ground, essentially. So fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts and seeds, all of these things will look after your gut health. Which in turn will look after your brain health and everywhere else. I could do a whole nother presentation on gut health and fibre and how that all works, but something just to always be thinking is how can you add more fibre and more of these things in. So I think the lady that says she added mixed berries, perfect, because you get a different nutrient from each berry. They're all fibre, but you get lots of other things as well. So really focusing on adding those two things into your breakfast will help. And then carbohydrates. So people get scared of carbohydrates. So it's not to be scared of. We need carbohydrates. We need them for fuel, and they help our brain. It's just making sure we have the right kind of carbohydrates as well. So we need things like brown rice, quinoa, oats are great. So avoiding things like white breads, white pastas, that kind of thing, but having the brown versions of those is better. Lentils, chickpeas, beans, sweet potato, butternut squash, all of these things are really great for us, so we do need them, so don't be scared of having some carbohydrates in your diet. And then limiting the refined carbohydrates, so those white based foods, so the white breads, the white pastas, and also things like sugary snacks, fizzy drinks, sweets, pastries. We know these are going to affect our blood sugar levels, so it's just being aware of that and trying not to have too regularly. So it's not to say not to have them, but just not having them all the time. That should hopefully help keep you on track. And then to add in some extra key nutrients to help with our mental resilience as well, especially at these sort of busy times of year or when it's difficult outside. Omega-3 fatty acids. So these, again, people get nervous about fats, but we absolutely don't need to be scared of fats. We need fats in our diet. So things like avocados are great fats, olive oil, oily fish, that kind of thing we really, really need in our diet. So we shouldn't be scared of them. I was a child of the 80s, so everything was low fat in our household. But the research now shows that those low fat foods are really not good for us. So they're full of sweeteners, emulsifiers, things that make them taste tasty. Actually, if we had the less of the full fat versions of these things, we'd be better off. So that's almost a bit of a side note there. So we do need these things. So don't be scared of the carbs and don't be scared of the fats. So we need omega-3 fatty acids to support our brain function and help reduce any inflammation we may have, especially at this time of year when there's lots of bugs around. We want to be keeping ourselves in our optimum. So things like oily fish, flax seeds and walnuts are good sources there. B vitamins we need for resilience and energy production. So you get those from whole grains, eggs and leafy greens. Magnesium is an amazing nutrient, helps with sleep and managing stress. They say a lot of us are deficient in magnesium because we used to get it from the soil, and where our soil for growing vegetables has been so used and full of chemicals and things for the vegetables to be grown, it's depleted the magnesium in the soil. You can still get it in things like nuts, seeds, dark chocolate, so it's still there, and leafy green vegetables, but sometimes you may need to add some extra magnesium in by supplementing, but that will help with your sleep. And then vitamin D, at this time of year, again, most of us in the UK are deficient in vitamin D over the winter, or we get vitamin D from sunlight primarily. So over the winter, we don't get enough sun. So it may be something you need to think about supplementing if you're not during the winter months, but you also get it from fatty fish and it is fortified in some foods. So I would just say making sure you're getting some during the winter by supplementation. And then hydration, it's probably the one thing that everyone forgets about. We talk a lot about nutrients and what foods to add in, but actually we forget to keep hydrated. So this will have an impact if you're dehydrated on your cognitive function and your mood. So something to bear in mind. And then caffeine as well. So coffee's not bad, especially good quality coffee. There's lots of gut health benefits too. It's just about the time of day that you have your coffee. We're all different on how we tolerate coffee based on our genetics. Some people can drink coffee all day long and it doesn't have an effect. Some people get really jittery if they drink coffee, so I would suggest to those people it doesn't quite work for them. But as a general rule of thumb, I would say have coffee in the morning, but avoid it after lunchtime because it can affect your sleep. Even if you're having a coffee at 2 o'clock, it can still affect you at 10 o'clock at night. So it's not about not having it, it's just about choosing your time of day. So I've given you lots of tips and information and things that you need to add into your diet, and that can sometimes feel overwhelming and you might feel like this poor man with his head on the desk right now, but actually it's not as complicated as it first may look. So how do we do all of this to get you on track? So balancing our blood sugar levels, as we've talked, this is going to be the main thing that's going to make the biggest difference in your day. Is if we can get your blood sugar levels balanced, you'll find that you really have a much better day. So starting your day off with a really good protein rich breakfast or whenever your first meal is, as we've discussed, and then following it through to lunch as well. So whatever you choose for lunch, so avoiding having a heavy carbohydrate based lunch. So a traditional sandwich, for instance, say a cheese sandwich, is a really heavy carbohydrate. You get much more carbohydrates than you do protein, which you get a little bit of protein in the cheese. We want to be switching that up. So it's not about not having the carbohydrates, it's just making sure you have more protein on that plate. So maybe having one slice of bread with cheese, adding some nuts and making it more like an open sandwich. So having it, you know, in a different way. So it's not having the bread, it's just having more of the other stuff as well. Or making a really lovely salad with lots of roasted vegetables, having it with some meat or fish or nuts and seeds, beans, that kind of thing. So it's just building up all of these things. And then if you do find you need a snack, sometimes it's a really long time between lunch and dinner. Sometimes you need a snack in the afternoon, especially if you're working or you've got a long commute home or you've got family commitments and you need to get kids from A to B before you can think about dinner. You might need to have a snack. That's okay. So it's making sure you choose the right kinds of snacks. So again, it's always having that protein first thought. So things like a handful of nuts and seeds, hummus with some vegetables, hard-boiled eggs. So it's just things that are really keeping that blood sugar level at bay and keeping you going until you can get to your meal. And then sort of thinking about those mood boosting foods. So things like berries, bananas, dark chocolates, those complex carbohydrates that we talked about earlier, they can really help with your mental resilience. And then the meals that you have, you just enjoy, you know, so having things like nice warming soups, you can make stews and you can pack them with loads of different veg and mixed beans and just really pack them out with lots of goodness, but they still feel hearty and warming. So you still get that sort of comfort and that hug in a bowl kind of feeling. And then instead of in the afternoon where you may have had a coffee in the past, maybe looking at different herbal teas, just so it's you still get that warm drink, you still get that feeling of something warm, but you're not having that coffee hit that will affect your sleep later in the day. And yeah, so that's where sleep and stress management come into it. So you want to be thinking about evening meals that are helpful to your sleep. So there's a nutrient called tryptophan, which you find in turkey, nuts and seeds, that actually helps aid sleep. So those sort of foods are great to have in your evening meal. And magnesium as well, which again, so that dark chocolate, so having a couple of squares of dark chocolate after dinner, anything over about 75% cocoa solids is good. Leafy green vegetables, they're all good for that magnesium as well. It should help with your sleep. And then reducing your caffeine, as we've said, late in the afternoon. Alcohol as well will affect your sleep, as much as we don't want to hear it. That is what it is, unfortunately. So maybe reducing that down if you can. And then not having heavy meals late in the day, because that can help stop you sleeping. So it's trying to have if you can have a bigger meal at lunchtime or something smaller in the evening, that's great. It doesn't always work for everyone depending on your working environment, but just trying to move your evening meal a little bit earlier if you can, so you've got a good sort of 3 or 4 hours before bed, just so it really has time to digest before you go to bed. So I wanted to see if what would you change? So there's a lot of information we've gone through here, and I would never expect everyone to change everything overnight. That's not how it works. So it's just about making small, actionable goals, the things that you can do that will really make a difference. So hopefully there's something that's resonated with you within this presentation. So maybe it's adding that protein into your breakfast, increasing your fibre by adding some extra fruit or veg into your diet, making sure you're drinking a little bit more, cutting down on the coffee, whatever it might be. It's just making that one small change that will make a difference. So I don't know if anyone's happy to share anything, or if you need a bit more time to think about it.
Thanks, Jo. Ellie, we do have some questions in the chat. Oh, sorry. Sally's coming. Sally, do you want to go ahead? Oh, you're on mute.
I'm going to try and drink more water and less tea and coffee.
Perfect. And I think it's just doing it slowly and doing that for the next few weeks, and then that will make a difference, and then you'll be ready to move on to the next change. And so that's a great one. There you go. Ideal. Brilliant. So
Right,
these are the small things you can do. Sorry.
I'm going to read out some of the questions that we've got in the chat.
Perfect.
So the first one is fat-free Greek yogurt better than full fat?
Fat-free Greek yogurt is fine. Full fat yogurt you'll find will fill you up for longer, so you'll need less of it and it will keep you fuller for longer. So again, it's that good fat, but if some people find it too heavy, so you might find that you prefer the fat-free one. So yeah, that's a more of a personal choice, but as long as it's a proper thick Greek yogurt, then whichever one you prefer.
Thanks very much. Also, is decaf okay when we talked about the coffee?
Yes, so yes, from a caffeine point of view, then yes. From the sort of sleep point of view, decaf's fine. With decaf tea and coffee, there's a way of reducing the removing the caffeine from the drinks. So lots of the sort of instant coffees and they use a chemical process to remove caffeine, so that's the ones you want to avoid. What you would look for is someone that uses something called a Swiss water process to remove the caffeine. That's done in a natural way, so you don't have that chemical extraction. So that's the only thing I'd say with decaf coffee. It's not bad, so you still get then the gut health benefits of the coffee bean, but just using that Swiss water process to remove the caffeine is the best way forward. So the sort of better quality coffee producers and Taylor's tea is a Swiss water process one. Then they're the ones to go for.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another question. What are the benefits of intermittent fasting?
So that depends on you as an individual. There's not a blanket one size fits all with fasting, especially between men and women. Different ages comes into it. Men seem to do better with fasting than women because they don't have hormonal fluctuations like women do, so it's something to consider. The research says about 13 hours fasting actually is long enough for your body to do what it needs to do in terms of regenerating. So generally overnight, just between, making that gap between your last meal and your first meal the next day, if you can make that about 13 hours, that seems to be long enough. You don't need to push it any further. Some people fast and it works really well for them, and some people it really doesn't. So it's a really individual approach with it. So it's a bit of a wishy-washy answer, but there really is one no size fits all with fasting, I'm afraid. But 13 hours is the sort of golden area, I'd say.
Okay, thank you. There's another comment around, I love hummus, but avoid it because I'm told it's full of fat.
Yeah, so that sounds like something from the 80s and 90s when we were told we shouldn't have fat. But no, hummus is good. So you can make hummus yourself really easily, which is with chickpeas, which are great for fibre, and olive oil. So it's really good quality oil. So yeah, I eat lots of hummus. I love hummus. So it's just making sure you get the ones with the right ingredients in. The sort of better, if you can get, as long as it's olive oil, chickpeas, tahini, which is a sesame seed paste, and a bit of garlic. That's pretty much all you need. And actually, that's not bad. Olive oil is great for us.
Thank you. And then another question. They say, I really struggle with quick nutritious lunches, particularly when working. Any other ideas on how to add more protein?
Yes, I can. I've got a really good recipe. I'll send it over to you. Let me just write that down or I forget. I've got a sort of, it's like a salad bowl where you put it together. So basically gives you all the sections to make up a really good wholesome lunch. So you can change it every day. You could make 10 different salads out of this one recipe, basically.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, so it's really good. So you won't get bored. It's not just lettuce, tomatoes, cucumber, there's lots of other things. But in terms of protein, so obviously any kind of thing like tuna, chicken, any meat or fish. If you don't eat meat or fish, eggs is great for protein, but also beans, like, tins of mixed beans you can add in. Nuts and seeds are great to add onto the top, to sprinkle on the top of salads. Tofu, if you like tofu, that's a really great protein source as well. So that there's lots of things you can add on, or a combination, or things like hummus. So a combination of all of those, you can really stack up the protein over the course. But I'll send you that that sort of salad build up bottle. It's called a nourish bottle. So you build it up and you can put whatever you've got available basically and change it all the time so you don't get bored.
That sounds excellent. Thank you very much.
No problem.
And I think that's around all the questions.
Yeah.
I mean, I put one earlier in, but I think you covered it off. So my husband suffers from SAD over the winter months.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to understand what else I can help him with nutritionally, but I think you've covered most of that.
Perfect. Vitamin D supplementation would be a big one. Definitely. It really affects us having low vitamin D, and then it's really amazing how quickly you can be picked up by having a good vitamin D supplement. So that's a good starting point, I'd say.
Thank you. And Becky, you've got the very last question.
I put a cheeky one in, sorry.
That's it. Do you want to ask that of yourself?
Yeah, Joe, so my question was, is it okay to regularly have your dinner leftovers for lunch the next day, or should you really be trying to have, like, put something different together for your lunches?
Oh, absolutely not. Have no time. So I have leftovers all the time because we're all busy people. And yeah, I have leftovers. No, it's not bad at all. Yeah, keep going with that. That's one of my top tips actually when I do presentations on being busy, basically, and how to be a busy person and eat well. And yeah, batch cooking and using leftovers are the key things, definitely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to say thank you on behalf of everybody. That was an excellent presentation. I've learned so much in that last 20 minutes, half an hour. So thank you very much.
Oh, no, thank you. Appreciate you having me along. If anyone did have any further questions or anything that comes up they want to talk about or just want to keep on top of what I'm doing, there's all the links there to where I am. I put lots of recipes on my website as well, so there's lots of bits there. I'll send those other two over to you so you've got them to send around to the team. But if there's anything more or if you've got specific questions, I'm always happy to have a chat.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
I'll leave you to it, but thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, Joe.
Right, so that was excellent. I know that my diet can be particularly poor in the afternoon, so I'm going to need to try and get some nuts for that, I think. The next section, we were going to talk to a lady from the West Midlands Ambulance Service around health and wellbeing, but she's going to try and get to the spring one now. So we are going to move on to Finding Happiness, Pedal by Pedal. This is a personal story by Amy Hudson. She cannot be here in person, but we've recorded the session. So over to Becky to share it. Thank you.
So, hello everybody. I'm sorry that I'm not there in person today. Unfortunately, I'm in sunny Spain, so I hope the weather's good where you are too. But today I am doing a presentation to you about finding happiness. So I work in the Derbyshire Healthcare Foundation Trust in the finance team. But alongside that, I also have a massive passion outside of work for cycling, and somehow it's now sort of come part of my job as well, which I'm going to go through in this presentation. The reason I created this is because I hope that it can help other people. I've been through a few mental health struggles, which I will talk about in this presentation just as a pre-warning, so just in case anyone finds that difficult. But there is a happy ending, and I made a book out of it as well, so I'll chat a bit about that, which still doesn't quite feel real. But my book is called Finding Happiness, Pedal by Pedal, and this presentation sort of tells a little bit about my story and what I sort of talk about in the book as well. So who am I? So as I said, I'm Amy. I work as a finance assistant in the NHS, but outside of that, I'm also a daughter, a wife, a sister, and a cyclist and runner as well. So I really enjoy sport and being active. But it wasn't until lockdown in 2021, the second round, that I discovered cycling. I was working as a mental health nurse in the Derbyshire Trust as well, so I've had a bit of a career change. And while I was working as a nurse, which I did for 3 years, I worked with eating disorders in an eating disorder team. And the reason I went into this job is because when I was younger, my younger sister struggled with an illness called anorexia, which is an eating disorder. Very ironically, went at university studying to be a mental health nurse because I wanted to help the world and make sure nobody struggled with eating disorders and no one went through what my sister went through or what my family went through. I got an eating disorder while I was at uni, which is very ironic because when you've been around someone that has an eating disorder or you've had a family member with an eating disorder, you know how traumatic and horrible it can be, and you think that is not going to happen to me. But I found university quite difficult, and I found working with people that were struggling I couldn't switch off from it. So I'd come home from a placement. One of my first placements was on a female acute ward, which is people who are really, really unwell, who are too unwell to be at home. And I just came home and I was worrying about them, even though they weren't my responsibility necessarily as a student nurse. I'd be worrying about them, and I couldn't switch off. But me being me, I don't give up very easily. And because I decided I wanted to be a nurse and I wanted to help people, I didn't give up, and I carried on, and I qualified as a nurse, and I ended up working in an eating disorder team, which is what I always wanted to do. And I coped quite well for the first 2 years. I can't say I loved it, but I did enjoy working with people. But when the second lockdown hit and we were working from home, I started to really struggle a little bit more. And I kind of realised that I'd never really enjoyed being a nurse, but I'd sort of forced myself into that job and felt like I had to stay in it. But when lockdown came the second time round, and I've always struggled with anxiety, and obviously I've had a bit of quite a bad eating disorder through uni, which I managed to get through. Lockdown hit and I was working from home, and I started to get worry thoughts. I always call them worry thoughts. I think everybody has worries, but it's how much you listen to those worries. And for some reason, I couldn't switch off from those worries, and I just got really, really unwell, to a point where I wasn't eating properly, I wasn't concentrating. My worries started turning into real fears. For some reason, I got into my head that something bad would happen to a service user that I was working with, and it would all be my fault. I'd be struck, and it just snowballed. I thought I was going to struck off the nursing register, and then I'd, end up in coroner's court, and I'd go to prison. It was looking back at it now, I can tell it was totally irrational, but at the time it was very, very real for me. And these intrusive thoughts, I just could not switch off from. All day, every day, I had these horrible thoughts going through my head that I was a bad person, something bad was going to happen. I hadn't done anything bad at all. Now looking back, I know that, but at the time it was just that what if, and it got to a point where I became so ingrained in intrusive thoughts and worries that I had to leave my job. I didn't make that decision myself. My husband and my mum, thank goodness for them, sat me down and said, Amy, look, you're not yourself. You're not very well. At the time I couldn't see it, but they said you need to take a break from work. Within that break, I realised actually nursing was not the right job for me, and I said to myself, I don't need to stay in this job. I don't have to, just because I've trained in it, I don't have to stay in it. And that was kind of a relief for me. There were some really, really low moments after this because I felt like an absolute failure. I've got a picture of my dog there because he's always by my side and he's really helped me through a lot of struggles. He's always there for a cuddle when I need it. But I just felt like such a failure because I thought I've trained for 4 years to be a nurse. I've got a master's degree and I've only been a nurse for 3 years. Like this, no one's ever going to hire me again. I'm an absolute failure. Everything's ruined. And I just got really, really low. And it was at this point when I was off work, a bit too unwell to work. My husband randomly decided to buy me a bike. Now, I'd not ridden a bike since the picture on the right was when I was learning to ride. I had ridden since then, but for at least 10 years, I'd not ridden a bike. I learned to ride when I was a kid. I don't quite know what my parents dressed me in there. I mean, the colour combo, I'm not sure what's happening, but anyway, that was the style back then, I guess. And I learned to ride a bike, but then I never really enjoyed it as a kid. My dad used to force us out on family bike rides. I used to absolutely hate it, try anything I could to get out of it. But for some reason, when I was struggling, my husband bought me a bike. Now, me being me, I couldn't completely leave my job. I was also a swimming teacher. So I was just teaching swimming at the time, figuring out what I wanted to do, still feeling really low, still struggling a lot with anxiety. There were some really, really low moments. There was times when I couldn't be on my own. I didn't want to be here anymore. It was horrible, and it's still quite sad to think about now, but I'm in such a better place, and I've got a lot of the reason for that is because of this discovering cycling. Alongside it, I did have counselling and have support from family, which I'm very grateful for as well. Cycling wasn't therapy, I needed that too, but cycling was part of my therapy and probably the thing that worked the most for me. So yeah, he bought me this bike, a little Carrera from Halfords. I hadn't ever ridden on drop handlebars, which are the handlebars that go down and under. Apparently they are more aerodynamic, which I now know about a little bit more. But you know, it wasn't an expensive bike. I didn't have any cycling clothes, so cyclists wear padded shorts to make it more comfy and have shoes that clip into the pedals so that you're secure and you can pull up and push down and go faster. I didn't have any of that. I just had my running kit and this little bike, and I'd been cycling for about a month. I used to go out every weekend into the Peak District. I'm very lucky to live near there, and it was the only time when I felt like I'm worthy, or that my mind would settle down, like I wasn't worried about going to prison or something bad happening, or you know, that I'm a failure. I just went on my bike and I could just switch off. And even if I couldn't switch off completely, it would give me a distraction. So after about 2 months of cycling, now I did have a fitness base because I used to run a lot. So it wasn't like I just miraculously got fit, but we have a caravan in Wales, which is 160 miles away from where I live. And I just thought, that's one of my happy places, one of my favourite places to be. There's no signal there, no one can distract you. You're completely calm and peaceful, and it's just really, really nice there. It's perfect to go if you're feeling like you need a break. So I thought, right, I'm just going to cycle there in a day. And my family were like, what do you mean you're going to cycle there in a day? It's 160 miles away. Don't be so silly. But if people tell me I can't do something, it means that I can. So I just set off in my gym clothes, and I did it, and I cycled there in a day, and I just felt so good at the end of that day. And I can't describe, I don't know why, I just fell in love with cycling from that point. It just made me feel like there's something worth living for in life. Like looking around at the trees that have been there for hundreds of years, I thought all of my worries are actually insignificant. I'm just this tiny dot moving through half the country at the minute. I don't know anyone that's driven past me. I don't know them, and they don't know me. And being insignificant was kind of a comfort for me, because it made me realise that all those worries and all that feeling of failure, the majority of the world don't know about. So it's actually okay. So from there, I then got really into cycling, and a lot of people call me crazy, but I don't mind that. I know that I am. I got really into endurance cycling. So last year and the year before, I did something called the 24-hour time trial, which is basically where you ride your bike for 24 hours. It's around a set circuit, and yeah, you just keep riding for 24 hours and see how far you can get. In 2023, I got the bronze national medal, and in last year I got the silver national medal. So yeah, I was really annoyed at myself because in 2023 I really wanted to get 400 miles, and as you can see, I did 396.23 miles, so I was so close. So I was like, I've got to go back next year and do it again. And then last year I managed to get 403 miles, so I was happy with that. And as you can see from the picture, there's not just me, there's my husband there as well. So he now cycles too. I managed to rope him into it because he was missing out on the fun. So before, when we got married 6 years ago now, we didn't used to cycle, so I don't know what we used to do, because now all we do is cycle. We used to actually get annoyed at cyclists on the road. I know that we can be in the way of cars, but we are just people riding. So if you're one of those people that gets annoyed at cyclists, just remember that we are people, not just annoying objects on the road. But I've been guilty of getting frustrated when I've been stuck behind a cyclist. So it's not until you do it that you realise, oh, actually, this is really fun. So yeah, I got really into it, and at this time I started documenting my cycling on social media, on Instagram and YouTube, and somehow it managed to grow. So I then went on to do a ride called Paris-Brest-Paris, which is where you ride from Paris to Brest and back to Paris again. As you can see, the sleeping arrangements weren't ideal. We slept in a graveyard both nights. The first night we had grass, and the second night we unfortunately only had concrete. And on the top left-hand corner, that is me in a lot of pain. So one of the things I didn't realise you needed to do when doing a really long ride like this is to get a bike fit. So make sure that your bike is completely fitted right for your body, so that your bum's comfy, most importantly, shoulders, neck, everything like that. Unfortunately, I didn't get that done, and I struggled with something called saddle sore, which is basically where, so you wear bib shorts. I had discovered these now, and clip-in shoes, so I was a better cyclist than I was when I first started, but I still had things to learn. And it's basically where the seams of your shorts are kind of start to rub. And obviously when you're cycling a long way, so this was 1,200 kilometers, that rubbing gets worse and worse, and I didn't have a choice but to keep going because I'd committed to doing this ride. It's a ride that happens every 4 years, and you have 90 hours to complete it. So we did it in 71 hours. So basically we just rode for 400 kilometers, slept for 3 hours, did the same again, slept for 3 hours, did the same again, and finished. So it's long hours in the saddle, and it's not all fun, but there's something, I don't know why, but there's something about putting yourself through a challenge and putting yourself through a bit of pain, but at the end you just feel so good about it, and it helps you to grow as a person and realize that there's so much, well, it's made me realize that there's so much to explore in the world, and there's so many good things out there. There were so many kind people all the way that came out and gave us food, and all the little French villages, they all come out and cheer you on all through the night. So it's just such a great community, and it made me realize how, although we hear a lot of negative things in the news, there are really good things happening too, and lots of lovely people. So last year I did the biggest challenge that I've done. So now I'm really into cycling, and I'm just trying to find the biggest challenges that I can do, because cycling is the one thing that I can switch off from. During this time I also did a finance qualification and got a new job back in the same trust in finance, completely different from mental health nursing, but I can't kill any numbers, so I felt like no prison worries or much anxiety in this role. So I was much happier in work as well, and just mentally in a lot better place. I think I've still got things to work on. I'm a real perfectionist, so I'm still very overthinker, quite an anxious person naturally, but having a good balance with work and life outside of work has really helped me. So All Points North is an endurance race. There's 10 points that you have to get to in the UK. You have to plan your own route. You're not allowed to pre-book any accommodation. You can book accommodation while you're riding, but I decided I would just sleep outside, because it was easier than trying to find accommodation on bank holiday weekend when also trying to ride that far. So my first night I slept in a lovely bush shelter, which you can see in the third picture along. It could fit me and my bike in, and it kept me covered from the rain, so that was perfect. The second night wasn't so good. I didn't take a photo. I slept in a graveyard because I was heading towards Newcastle on a bank holiday Sunday night, and I was worried about being in the centre of Newcastle. I went through a little village. I saw a church. I thought I'll be safe there, and I slept in the graveyard. I didn't get much sleep, but I got what I needed, and I managed to come second female. So I did 680 miles and quite a lot of climbing, over 51,000 feet of climbing. This was the first ride I'd done where it was multiple day, completely on my own with no help from anyone. And I was really, really scared going into it, because I thought, well, the biggest fears, if I'm totally honest, were A, that I was going to get attacked by somebody in the night, and B, that something would go wrong with my bike and I wouldn't be able to fix it. And now those fears could have stopped me from doing this challenge, but I'm so glad they didn't, because I learned so much about myself on this, that I can just keep going. If I put my mind to something, I can do it. I had to work hard to get to this. I had to do a lot of training rides, and I spent a lot of my weekends riding to build up to it. But it was such a good feeling at the end. And I think the message from that is that if you want to do something and you put your mind to it, you can. And it doesn't matter if you don't come in the top 10 or you don't win. It's actually just achieving it and doing it that matters. So for this ride, you had 72 hours to be classified as a finisher. So I did it in 71 something. I can't remember the exact time, but I did it just within the time limit, and only 50% of people finished and 20% of people did it in the time limit. So I was really proud of myself for this, and that's quite hard for me to say, because I don't know, it's just a thing, especially in British culture, I've noticed that we find it quite hard to say that we're proud of ourselves or talk about our achievements, but actually it's something that we should do more of, because it's good to be proud of yourself, and it's good to challenge yourself and feel good for doing that. It wasn't easy, but it's definitely something that I would do again. But I definitely needed a shower at the end, because after 71 hours of cycling up and down hills and sleeping outside, I'm surprised my husband let me in the car at the end, to be honest. And finally, last year, a big challenge that I did was cycling from Venice in Italy back to Derby, and we did this to raise money for an eating disorder charity. So me and my husband cycled together. So at this point, I've been cycling for about 3 years now, and somehow my social media has grown, my YouTube channel has grown, and I've been sponsored by a bike brand called Pinarello, and their factory is in Italy. So we had this idea of cycling from the factory to their shop in London and then back to Derby. And this was just amazing. And And it was at a point when I felt like last year, it was last September actually, so it's not that long ago. I'm settled in my job. My mental health is really good. I'm not having counselling, not having therapy. And the bike is just making me happy and exploring new places. And we're just so grateful that we got to do this. So we did, 2,000 kilometres in 8 days. We did about 250 kilometres a day. We rode through the French Alps. We rode through and then up through the centre of France. And it was just amazing. And we raised over £11,000 for a charity, which we're really, really happy about. And I went from 3 years before this, wanting to end my life, seriously considering ending my life, to now looking to where I've come, cycling through France, looking around me and cycling through the mountains and thinking, why on earth did I want to do that to myself? And it's because it's all depends on the situation you're in. And I'm so grateful I've had these opportunities. But I always say I'd be just as happy riding through Derbyshire Peak District in the countryside on my bike. I'm just as happy there as I am in the French Alps. I just love being outdoors and riding my bike. And I'm just so grateful that I discovered that. And I think the message I always want to give is that no matter how low you get or how much of a failure you think you are, there's always a better day on the way. And there's always something to look forward to if you let there be. Like I when I was in a negative mood, I'd always be thinking, oh, there's nothing good about life, everything's rubbish, there's nothing to look forward to, I'm a failure. But that wasn't helping me think in that mindset. It's very hard at the time to just suddenly change how you think, because when you're ill you can't do that, but you have to hold on to hope and hope that things will get better. And for some reason I had that little bit of hope in me, and I'm so glad that I did, and that I got to discover cycling and all the amazing things. But it doesn't need to be cycling, it can be anything that makes you happy. And I think it's so important that we get that balance in life, because we can spend our lives feeling like we have to do things. There are certain things we have to do, of course, like we have to go to work to pay the bills, but just get that balance of making sure you're enjoying your life as well, because there's so many happy moments and things to do and enjoy. And sometimes I think we can rush through life and then it's too late to do the things we want to do. So just enjoy things as much as you can and know that the happy times are coming. But anyway, so from when I was really low to finding my happiness again, and it's not all sunshine and roses. I do still go through low times. I think we all do, and I do still go through anxious times, and I have to make sure that I do things to make sure that I don't go into overdrive, because I am quite a hard worky sort of person. Like, I don't like sitting around doing nothing. If I do something, I go for it. As you can probably tell with the cycling, I've kind of really gone for it. But I started writing a book when I was really not very well. It never was going to be a book. It was just sort of a personal diary to help myself. And when I got better and realised how unwell I was, I thought, when I was ill, I felt completely alone and that nobody else understood, even though there was lots of people that did understand that had been through similar. And I thought, if I had this book now and read it and saw this person went from where they are to being able to be happy again, that would have really helped me. So I thought maybe I can make it into a book, and I did, and I sent it to some publishers, and somehow it got published. Still doesn't really feel real. But in the book, I sort of start each chapter with a little mental health tip. And I just want to share a few of the things that I've learned since starting cycling and since getting better that sort of keep me on the happiness road, as I like to call it. But as I say, it's not normal to be happy all the time. And it's not normal to be sad all the time. It's about having that right balance in life and just being okay with all the emotions that you feel. I always say you have to feel sadness to be able to feel happiness. So don't think, if you're sat here thinking, oh, I'm never happy, or I'm never sad, I'm never happy, maybe that's something to be a bit concerned about. But if you're sat there thinking, oh, I get sad, I do get happy, but sometimes I get sad, that's completely normal. Like, it's completely normal to be upset and to be sad and be frustrated. So let yourself feel all those emotions. But these are just things that I do to keep myself as happy as I can be in all the different emotions of life. So number one is focusing on the positives. I think it's so easy to focus on the negatives in life, and I'm a culprit of this. I do love a good moan. I like to moan about things, but I also have to snap out of it as well. So I let myself have a little moan at least once a day, because it feels good. But I have to try and remind myself that no amount of moaning is going to change the situation. So you have to always try and put a positive spin on things. For example, if I'm on a bike ride and I get a puncture, no amount of moaning about it is going to fix the puncture. It's just going to make me be there cold for longer. I've just got to get on and fix it. So I might as well have a laugh about it and fix the puncture and get on with my ride. Or it's like if you're stuck in traffic, it's so frustrating when you want to get somewhere, you're running late and then there's a crash and you're stuck in traffic, you're at a standstill, and you can just sit in your car getting so frustrated about it. But no matter how frustrated you get, that's not going to make the traffic move. So you might as well put on the radio and have a sing song to yourself and just enjoy a half an hour of doing nothing, which you probably never get to do normally. So it's about the way you look at things. And I think every day, no matter how low or how bad your day's been, there's always something good. Even if it's just a tiny thing like the sun coming out for a second, there's always something little and good in the day. So try and focus on that. And then if you're really having a really low day and you're really struggling, I always find that thinking of a happier time helps. So like look back at some memories on your phone. You might have some funny videos or photos. Look at that and just remind yourself that it's not always bad and that those happy times will come again. Number 2 is letting worries go. So this is a big one. I think we all worry, and I am definitely a worrier, but I have to try and remind myself that we as humans create our own worry. We have this world that's very, very busy and there's lots going on and there's lots of different things we can worry about. I mean, we could take a whole day worrying about one thing if we really let ourselves. So our mind creates our worries, and we have to remind ourselves that no amount of worry is going to fix what is going on. Like you can worry and worry and worry about something, but if you're not doing anything about it, it's not going to fix it. So I always ask myself a question is, what I'm worrying about now, can I do anything about what I'm worrying about? If the answer is yes, I can do something about it, then go and do it. If the answer is no, I can't do anything about it, then I need to stop worrying about it and let it go. Because most of the time we're worrying about something that's already happened, we can do nothing about, or we're worrying about something that might happen in the future. And if we can't do anything about it, there's no point in worrying about it. So I always try and tell myself now that worrying is wasted time. It's a lot easier said than done. You can't just switch your worries off, but sometimes just taking that step back and reminding myself that really, really helps. And another thing, like I've mentioned before, when I was riding all the way to Wales, that idea that we're insignificant, most people don't know about us or our worries. So if there is something you worry about, you think you've done wrong, the majority of the world don't know about it. And if you think you've done something wrong, that's okay, because we're only human and we all make mistakes. So that's something I've sort of really had to learn, because I'm really bad. If I make a mistake, I feel like the world's going to end. But actually, it's okay to make a mistake. So just remind yourself that the majority of the world doesn't know about your mistakes, so it's okay. Next is being grateful. So this is a picture of me at one of my book launches with all my, it was a close family and friends one. As you can see, I'm doing a little smile there, so I'm very happy. And I think it was because I was in a room full of people that really care about me. And I think we can go through life comparing ourselves to other people, and they've got a bigger house than me, they've got more money than me, they've got a better car than me, or whatever it is. But we forget to be grateful for the little things that we have, like having food in the fridge. That is something to be so grateful for, because some people don't have that. Having a roof over our heads, having a pillow, a comfy pillow at night, a comfy bed, having a friend or a family member to talk to. And I think research has actually shown, mental health research has shown that the more that we practice gratitude, so writing down 3 things each day that you're grateful for at the end of your day, research has shown that actually improves your happiness levels and your mental well-being, because being grateful for things is really good for us, because it reminds us of what we've got, and it helps us to stop comparing ourselves to other people. There's a famous quote that comparison is the thief of joy, and I think there is some truth in that, because we can put ourselves down a lot by comparing ourselves to other people, but actually we just need to focus on ourselves and just remember that all those little things we have that we forget about. So I'd really like everyone, like after this presentation, to try and think of 3 things that you're grateful for, and maybe try and do that for the rest of the week and just see if that makes any difference to you. You can either do it first thing in the morning or at the end of the day. So first thing in the morning when you wake up, what's 3 things you're grateful for? Or it might be easier to do at the end of the day, because you've had the day and you can think about things that have happened in the day if you find it a bit more difficult. But it's something I try and remember to do. I'm not very good at remembering every day. But when I do it, I do notice a difference, because it's even just going to do food shop and being able to get in a car and drive to the shop. That's something that some people can't do. When I'm riding my bike, I'm grateful that I've got legs that can allow me to cycle, because some people don't. So it's just reminding yourself of those things that we take for granted. Next is less judgment and self-acceptance. So through this whole journey of going through a mental health struggle, through school, when I was younger, I always used to feel a little bit different to everyone else. I felt like I didn't really fit in. I used to try and fit in with what everyone else was doing, and I was quite a self-conscious person. I've struggled quite a lot with acne when I was a teenager, and I used to hate what I looked like. But since I've started cycling and I've been through all the different things I've been through, I just started to think, do you know what? I don't care what people think anymore. I'm just going to be myself and just enjoy my bike rides and be silly. And just when I'm on my bike, it's like my inner child comes out. So I'm 28 now, I don't mind showing my age, but I feel like I'm back to being a teenager again. And there's me with a big pack of porridge in my bib short pocket, because we needed some fuel for the ride we were doing the next day and we couldn't fit it in our back pocket. And I just think we have to just accept ourselves for the way we are, and don't try and fit yourself to fit in with everybody else, because you are you, and that's what's great about you. So just have more self-compassion. So one of the things that I really noticed when I was struggling, and also before, is that I always used, and I still do if I'm totally honest sometimes, I always used to speak to myself quite harshly in my head. So if I do something wrong, I'm like, oh, goodness sake, Amy, you're such an idiot, in my head. Or I'm like, oh, why did you do that? Like, you shouldn't have done that. You would never say that to a friend. Like, if a work colleague or a friend came to said, oh, I did this, I'm a bit worried about what I've just done, or I've made this mistake, you wouldn't go to them and go, oh, you're such an idiot, like, you should know how to do that, why have you done that? You wouldn't say that to a friend. You wouldn't have any friends, I don't think so. Well, I hope you wouldn't anyway. But we speak so horribly to ourselves in our heads all the time, and I think it's really good to try and speak to yourself like you're a friend. So accept yourself, accept the mistakes that you make, and move on from them instead of beating yourself up. So I always try and use the phrase now, I can and I am. So that like kind of gives me a little boost in the morning. So I can get through today and I am going to make the most of it, something like that. Because at the end of the day, no one's going to remember me anyway in 100 years' time. So I might as well just live my life the way that I want to. Because when I left my job as a nurse, I was really, really worried about being judged. I thought, my friends would think, oh, she's wasted loads of time at uni. My family would be disappointed. But I'm so much happier having changed jobs and doing something that was right for me. And I think all my family and friends are happy because I'm happy. And I think if you've got the right people in your lives, people that really matter to you will accept you for who you are, and they won't judge you. And if people are judging you, then maybe they're not the right people, and that's okay. That's their problem. So just be kind to yourself, and also for others as well, because we don't know what's going through somebody's head that's next to us. When I was ill, I would be completely myself when I was out with my friends. No one would know what was wrong. I was very good at putting a mask on at work when I was a nurse. No one had a clue that I was struggling. And I think we never know what's going on through someone's head that's sat next to us. So always just be kind to other people, and remember to check in on them as well. And don't judge people. If someone sends you a bit of a snotty email, or maybe is a bit snappy with you, they might be going through something that you're not aware of. So just have that acceptance of, okay, maybe they're going through something that I'm not aware of. We're nearly at the end. So one of the really important things, I think most people know, because it's always everywhere, that how good movement is for you. And I think for me, it's been finding that balance of the right balance of movement. So when I had an eating disorder, I used to run a lot for the wrong reasons, and I used to do too much. Whereas now I've got a balance of making sure that I'm fueling myself enough. I have a balance of running, cycling and walking as well, and rest days, which are very important. I do have days where I do nothing. Well, even though I find it hard, I have to force myself to just sit down and just have a chill day, because that's really important too. But I think, if you're somebody that sits at your desk all day and doesn't get that movement in, try adding in maybe just a 10-minute lunch break walk. I know it's sometimes hard to take a lunch break, but we all should take them. And just going outdoors for 10 minutes and going for a walk around the block just makes a world of difference. Or before work, if you set your alarm half an hour earlier, go on a walk to start your day. It just makes such a difference, and it's so good for you mentally as well as physically. community is a big thing that I've learned that is a key to happiness. So I think it's quite easy, especially after lockdown, to isolate yourself. And, you know, if you're struggling to not meet up with friends and not do things together, but actually research has shown that loneliness has a really negative impact on mental health. So it's really important to stay in contact with people, and that's one of the things about cycling that I didn't realise. There's such massive community there, and I think it's just so important to keep in contact with people. And if you're doing really well at the minute and you're happy and you're not struggling with your mental health, maybe just send a text to all your friends and just check in on them, because I think it's something we don't do enough. We don't check in on our friends and really ask how they're feeling, because we're worried about, if they do say they're struggling, what on earth do I say? I don't know what to say. But actually, there's nothing you need to say. It's just them knowing that you're there. When I was struggling, you know, my friends didn't know what to say, but they didn't need to say anything. The best friends that I had were the ones that didn't really say much. They just invited me out for a coffee or invited me out to go on a walk with them. And, you know, they didn't tell me what to do or give me advice. They just listened to me and were there like normal. So I think it's just having that sense of community and not being alone is really important. Then the final thing is that I've learned the most, just being yourself, and, you know, find the thing that makes your soul shine, is what I always say. So if all you do is go to work and you don't do anything for yourself, work might be your thing that you absolutely love, and that's great. I do enjoy my job, but I don't go to work thinking, oh, I can't wait. I don't go to bed at night thinking I can't wait to get to work tomorrow. I don't think many people do, and if you do, then you're very lucky. But I think it's just about finding things that make you feel good and making sure that you plan time in to do them. And, you know, we don't all have loads of time to do, you know, to do something every weekend for ourselves or spend all day doing something. But even if you can just for 10 minutes a day have 10 minutes of you time, whether it's 10 minutes of walking or 10 minutes of looking up some new recipes that you're going to bake, or just doing something nice for yourself. Because one thing I always ask myself, and someone said it to me, I can't remember who, it's probably a famous quote, but when I went to a support group ages ago, something that I used to tell my service users as well when I was working as a nurse was, one day you're going to look back on your life. Hopefully you'll get the privilege of being sat in a rocking chair and you'll look back on your life and what do you want to see? And that really stuck with me, because when I was ill, when I had an eating disorder, I thought, I don't want to see a life that's just ruled by not being able to eat what I want because I'm worried about putting weight on. I want to see a life where I've done as much as I can and enjoyed it as much as I can. So that is how I try and live now. There's obviously things you have to do. You have to pay your bills and everything like that. But outside of that, I try and live my life as full as I can, because I think because of what I've been through and how low I have been, I really appreciate the happy times now. So that is it from me. I'll just finish on the fact that I've got a book out. So if you are interested in reading that, then it is available online if you just search it on Google, or you can get it off Amazon. So yeah, that doesn't really feel real. And in terms of what's next for me, this year in June/July, if you've heard of the Tour de France, I'm going to be cycling every stage of the men's Tour de France, including the transfers as well, which has never been done by a woman before. So I'm very nervous because it's a really massive challenge. I'm going to be doing over 6,000 kilometres in 30 days. I'm taking a month of unpaid leave off work that's been agreed. So luckily I'm in a very supportive workplace. So the finances will all be good. And yeah, that's my next challenge for a mental health charity. So yeah, that's it. And I just want to leave you with a message of just, no matter how low you get, life always can get better. And it's not, I don't ever like to say just because I can, it means you can too, because we're all individual. But I really do believe that anyone struggling, if they find the right thing that can bring them out of that struggle, they might always struggle, there might always be low times, but there will be happy times too, and it's not all bad. So yeah, just if you know anyone that's struggling or you struggle yourself, don't be scared to get help, and try and encourage that person to get help, because the sooner that you get help and start, you know, working towards getting better, the sooner that you'll find that happiness again. So yeah, that's it from me. So thank you for listening, and I'm sorry that I'm not there in person. I wish I was, but as I said, I'm currently in Spain training for the Tour de France ride. So it won't all be fun, but I probably have a bit more sun than you, so sorry about that. But yeah, thank you for listening.
Wow, that was amazing. That was such an inspiring story, and I was watching people on the cameras and thinking, oh gosh, everybody's just got so, just wrapped, you know, in watching what she was saying. And I'm sure there's bits of it that people resonate with. Yeah, I'm speechless. But so while I get my thoughts in order, there's a lot of notes coming through saying inspiring video, amazing, I'm a cyclist and this is inspirational, great story, goosebumps in a few tears, absolutely. So myself and Becky had a chat this morning and wanted to open it up to you guys, really. If there's anything that you feel that you would like to share with the rest of us in a future session, something like that. I mean, wow, that was moving. But I'm sure there's many of us that have got inspiring stories. So if there is anything that you would like to share with the group, just let myself and Becky know, and we're happy to chat to you about it. Yeah, so summary and closing of this now. Thank you all for joining us. I know it's been, we ended up on something quite emotional, but I hope, you know, it's been good for everybody. Becky's going to pop in the chat a short feedback form, and if you wouldn't mind just taking a minute or two to fill that out, that would be great. I'm also going to pop into the chat a link to a Wellbeing magazine that I have a free digital subscription with, which anybody can get, and actually it's packed with full of hints, tips and things. So I'm just going to post that into the chat as well, and I can see Becky's put the feedback form in. So before we say goodbye, is there anything anybody would like to comment or share or have a chat now, or no? Okay, so the next one of these sessions is in the diary now for the 20th of May, 10 till 12 again. And if you don't have this in your calendar, please message Becky and she will sort that out for you. And another point to note is One NHS Finance. They've hosted several national wellbeing webinars taking place. So Becky is also going to share a link in the chat with you for that. And thank you very much for spending your morning with us. It's been brilliant.
Yeah,
Becky?
thanks to everyone as well. Amy is part of this network. She came to our autumn session and just messaged me afterwards saying, you know, I've got a story if you want me to share it. So like Ellie said, you know, obviously things can be very personal, but you know, if you do have anything you want to share, I think this group of people is becoming quite feels very kind of close and, you know, a safe space. So it doesn't, you know, have to be like Amy's story. If you've got anything to share about your work or your life or anything, then just message me. But obviously for the next spring session, we'll look to get some other kind of case study sessions, and hopefully the lady from West Midlands Ambulance Service will come to the spring session instead and do the presentation she was due to do today. And we might get you all talking a bit more. We might do another interactive-y type session in spring, so be prepped for that. And yeah, any suggestions, like on the feedback form, you can write in any suggestions for topics that you want to hear about. So someone suggested after the autumn one about the sort of the financial one that Dawn came and did. So, you know, that's why we got that. So all the suggestions come from you guys. So please do write on the feedback form if you've got topics you think would be helpful to hear in these sessions. And just thank you for so many people for coming. I know it's end of the month and it's so busy, and you know, a whole 2 hours out of your diary must have been hard to commit to. So really appreciate it, and yeah, look forward to seeing everyone on the next one.
Thanks all. Have a great day.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks,
Thank
bye.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.